Hello, everyone. Chip Paul for Chip Talks Podcasts. Wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Schedule 3 and what this really means. So, yesterday, the world changed. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you're in my space, so I'm an endocannabinoid researcher. I study a system, a human system called the endocannabinoid system. Many things in nature impact that system. So cannabis will impact that system, natural products will impact that system, your diet impacts that system, nature impacts that system, let's say, because it's our master regulatory system. But all of us who study this system, have, let's say, spent a lot of time in the cannabis world, and cannabis is an effector in this system, and cannabis medicines and cannabis formulations, let's say, to impact this endocannabinoid system. So the two things kind of go together, although again, you don't feed your endocannabinoid system with cannabis. Let's be real clear about that. You feed your endocannabinoid system with dietary fats. And so does your dog, and so does your cat, and so does anything with a spine. They feed that system with dietary fats, not cannabinoids. However, this, and most people put all that stuff together. And so I speak on this all the time. When I say endocannabinoid system, I watch people go right to cannabis and kind of make that association. So what does this mean? Well, Schedule 3 and marijuana and all that. And what will it mean, let's say, to the cannabis world? What will it mean to the endocannabinoid, sort of, let's say, more professional scientific research world? And then what does it mean to you? So let's talk that through real quick, because I think it's important. So first of all, gosh, there's a lot of us that have fought for this reform and change since, the 60s, right? So we fought for some action for the federal government since, 1960, whenever. For me, it was the 70s, but, some of us have fought for this since the 60s. In the 70s, I began to fight for this, and, I began to pay attention, let's say, but, always some politician coming along and saying, yeah, we need to reform this. And usually a politician from the left, oh, we need to reform this, or Democrat. This is our issue. We're going to reform everything. Nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened. Right. So it was only when states took this into their own hands, and New Mexico was really the first. So most people don't know that in cannabis history, what was the first state to have a medical marijuana program? It was not California, it was New Mexico. California had a bigger one and made theirs more famous, but New Mexico was the first. But anyway, states have come along and said, hey, we don't agree with you, federal government, and our people want this. So we're going to do a risky thing, and we're going to say, well, at least in our state, we're going to make this legal. And again, we can do that by the Constitution. Absolutely, we can do that by the Constitution. The Constitution gives us the power to do that. But that's the change that we've seen in marijuana. So we've seen a whole bunch of states, do this and that. We've seen Oklahoma, do what we did. I kind of helped with that one. But, we've seen a lot of states sort of have their own and implement their own medical marijuana or adult use marijuana laws. But you've seen no movement from the federal government, right? So for the federal government to move, this is huge. I mean, this is a 50-year party, a 50-year celebration that, people have been waiting for me, 50 years or around that long. So first of all, tip of glass, congratulations, light one up, or whatever we want to do, 420 time, because we've had movement from our federal government, and that's huge. Now, let's talk about a little bit about what this does as far as the pharmaceutical system. Okay. So in the past, you've had the pharmaceuticals, you've had one brave company called Jazz Pharmaceuticals. And you've kind of had Pfizer got a little brave, but I don't know if they bought that drug, which they bought for $7 billion, one endocannabinoid drug. I don't know if they bought it to sideline it or they bought it to actually market it. But there's two drugs right now that are endocannabinoid drugs. So one is called Epidiolex, and it's owned by a company called Jazz Pharmaceuticals. And Jazz very bravely, spent, $1 billion to make that Epidiolex into a drug. They also kind of opened the door for every CBD company to come along and say, hey, that's a drug, and our stuff that I can make on my stovetop is, pretty much just the same stuff. So, that happened, but that won't happen anymore, not under Schedule 3. So now what you'll have is you'll have safe harbor for pharmaceutical companies that want to develop into the endocannabinoid system. So they will be doing that with two different things, and this is pretty important. So certainly there will be pharmaceutical companies entering this space and using cannabinoids. So I think that's going to be a given. You're going to have a, THC and, some pharmaceutical drug combined together to create a new pharmaceutical drug. Now, it'll take a while for that to happen. It'll take 3 years, 2 or 3 years for that to happen, but you'll likely see a lot of these kind of combinations of cannabinoids and other existing drugs start happening. The cool new development that'll happen, though, will be with cannabinoids and also endocannabinoids. And again, endocannabinoids exist in you now. They're basically, dietary fats combined with ethanol amine. And they, exist in you now. So they're safe, they're known to the FDA. So what's likely going to happen is there's going to be a whole bunch of new development up an FDA pathway called botanical new drug. And botanical new drug is if you're starting with something safe. So if I have, let's say, turmeric, and turmeric has years of safety. So if I said, I'm going to take turmeric and I'm going to make an anti-inflammatory drug from turmeric, you could do that. And again, you could walk turmeric up, you could go through clinical trials. It cost you, $500 million or so. And at the end of that, you would have a turmeric drug, but you wouldn't have it protected. So that's part of the strategy here is you have to have a way to intellectually protect property. And there are ways to do that. Some of us have figured out ways to do that. Some of us have issued patents and ways to do that. So there are ways to do that. And, there are, let's say, ways to do engineering patents rather than single molecule patents, which is what drug development used to be. So this is going to happen and begin happening. So you're going to have all this new kind of money and development going up this pathway called botanical new drug. And again, this is already being talked about. I mean, the phone is already ringing. It's already happening. So you're going to have a lot of pharmaceutical companies enter into, let's say, the development space with cannabinoids and with endocannabinoid affecting things. And that's good because that now begins to make sort of cannabis as a medicine into a real boy, right? So now we're going to actually have cannabinoid targeted formulations for things like weight loss or heart or angina or headaches, or it really doesn't matter, RA or pain, or just a myriad of things that, cannabis and other drugs can work for. But as they come together, that's going to make a more powerful drug and a kind of a better safety profile, I think. That we'll find that out with the data as that happens, but that's all coming. So all that's going to be really cool and really happen. And it's going to, that's going to take some time, couple of years. But what does that result in? The coolest thing that all of this does is it empowers me as a patient like crazy. And I love this as an activist. I mean, I've fought so hard for everything that I've fought hard for to empower you as a patient and also as a commercial business owner. So guess what happens now? Chip, we can't hire you because you have a medical marijuana card. Oh, really? Schedule 3 happened. So sorry. Now you're discriminating. Chip, we can't open a bank account for you because you're a commercial medical marijuana provider. So sorry. Schedule 3 happened. Now you're discriminating against me. Employment, insurance, all the ways that we've been discriminated against will go away. And that is marvelous. The other thing that'll happen again is this hasn't really been treated like a real issue yet. It's certainly not treated like a real issue at let's say the Oklahoma state legislature. It's treated like a meat puppet. It's treated like some issue that they can all kick around, but they're not kicking it around in your and I's best interest. They're kicking it around in whatever wind blows in their ears. And again, if you want to, have that demonstrated, come tag along with me as I try to talk to some of these yahoos at the Capitol. So, that's going to change. The OMMA, the OMMA is going to need to prepare for Schedule 3. They're going to need to prepare for the tremendous opportunity that is presented to Oklahoma by attracting all these pharmaceutical companies. Again, we will be able to attract all these pharmaceutical companies if we want to. Come to Oklahoma and develop your endocannabinoid drugs. Come to Oklahoma and develop your cannabinoid drugs. And if we want that as a state, I want that. I don't know what you guys want, but I want that. It doesn't seem to me like our leadership really wants that too much, but we can embrace that if we want to. And again, I'm going to see that we do as Oklahoma. I'm at least going to see that we get in somebody's ear as here in Oklahoma, and look at embracing that. So a lot of cool stuff happened yesterday. The world changed yesterday. The world changed for all of us in cannabis. The world changed for all of us in cannabis development and cannabis education. The people that are really trying to bring this to the general population, it just got way, way easier for all of us. Now, the fear, right? So let's address the fear. So all of you guys out there, commercial operators, you're likely freaking out. You're likely saying, oh, this is, now we're done. Pharma's going to come in. They're going to take over this industry. They're going to run everything. No, it's not going to be what happens. That can't happen. In fact, because we as Oklahomans have said, and we as Coloradans or we as Californians, it doesn't really matter where you are. If you have a program, you have spoken as a people in your state, and you have written state law and state regulation around a program. That can't change by federal folly. So that can't change because the DEA says, hey, we're going to change that, or the FDA says, hey, we're going to change that. That would break the U.S. Constitution. So I guess they could try to do that. They're certainly trying to do other things that break the U.S. Constitution. But, there's enough of us that we're not going to let that happen. So you're not going to have state programs affected by Schedule III unless state programs want to be affected. And if they want to be affected and the people, want change, then that may happen. It may not. Some states' programs need to be affected. They're horrible, and they need, revision and revamping. I would guess here in Oklahoma, we'll run another initiative petition. We need to kind of do that anyway. So we likely will run another petition. And that petition will incorporate, needed reform, and will also, incorporate some of the things that we want to do. I see Candy just commented there. So Courage in Cannabis is a good platform and vehicle if you want to learn more about this or learn kind of, let's say, current events and current trends. So they'll be reporting on this. They did a long segment last night on Schedule III, a very, very good segment with Waxy Brown. And Waxy's a great guy, very knowledgeable. Candy was on there as well, as was Dr. Bridget. So they're very good at also communicating information. So pay attention to them and what they're putting out. But there'll be lots of information. Again, there'll be lots of bad information come out about this. But, pay attention to your trusted sources, and we'll be here to give you the goods. Anyway, see you guys later. We'll be back tomorrow with another exciting podcast from Chip Talks Podcast. See you guys later. Bye.